would like to start off this video by telling you the story of this guy named Frank Merrill. Now, like many truck drivers, Frank dreamed of being his own boss and owning his own truck someday. But at the time, Frank had been working as a company driver over the past 11 years for a large carrier. However, in recent years, he started having some problems with his carrier. Instead of seeing a pay raise every year, he was starting to see his pay decrease, and this was all because of a problem that he had with his new dispatcher. This new dispatcher would purposely offer him less miles and give him all the bad routes just to kind of get back at him. And with debt rising, with his debt piling up, and his concerns for his family's financial future rising, Frank had to take some action. He immediately began looking for new opportunities and found something called a lease purchase program that was being offered by his carrier. Now, he didn't really know much about lease purchase programs, but his carrier promised him that it would be a huge opportunity for him to make more money and to be his own boss. And obviously, like anyone would, Frank signed up. As soon as he signed up, a sales rep took Frank to show him a rig that he could potentially own and operate. This rig had about 500,000 miles on it, and it was a bit older than what Frank wanted, but Frank was willing to look past all that. However, when he asked the sales rep to test drive it, the sales rep refused. He said that it was against company policy to let people test drive leased vehicles, and after a little back and forth, Frank was handed a thick bundle of papers with the word lease agreement written across the top. The sales rep said to Frank, "Listen, if you want to jump in on this opportunity, you have to sign up right now. If not, you can walk away and go back to working as a company driver." What Frank wanted to do was punch this guy, but he was desperate. So Frank really needed the money, and he had to turn things around quickly for his family. So out of pure desperation, he signed. I'll save you the details of what he went through, but within a year, Frank was $86,000 in debt. His carrier canceled the lease agreement and took his truck, and also, unfortunately, his wife passed away due to health and mental complications. Now, Frank Merrill is not just a character in a fictional story that I just made up. He's a real truck driver living in Missouri, and what happened to Frank is not just bad luck. It's happened to thousands of truck drivers who are now filing lawsuits against their carriers. And the crazy part is, this can and will happen to you too if you fall into one of the most dangerous traps in trucking, which is a lease purchase program. Hey everyone, welcome back to Gill 22. I'm Gurpreet Gill, and in today's video, I'm going to explain what lease purchase programs are, how they work, who they target, and how carriers that offer you these programs can potentially scam you out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Obviously, I don't want you to leave this video panicking and worrying, so I'll also show you how you can spot a potential lease operation scam and how to avoid them. But before we get started, make sure you scroll down and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you're the first to see all of my new videos. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Alright, so first and foremost, what you need to understand is that not all lease purchase programs are scams. If a carrier lets their drivers lease trucks from them, it doesn't mean they're scamming, you know? Same as if a carrier leases owner-operators to their company, it doesn't mean they're scamming. Just because you hear the word lease doesn't mean you should automatically jump to conclusions that it's a scam. What I'm going to talk about specifically in this video are predatory lease purchase programs and how easy it is for carriers to legally scam you out of thousands and thousands of dollars and ruin your life. First, let me just start off by explaining what a lease operator is and how it's different from being an owner operator or a company driver. So a lease operator is a contract driver that is tied into the carrier through a lease to haul their loads, and they cannot haul loads independent of the carrier that they're leased to. An owner-operator is also a contract driver. However, the big difference is they have full control over the loads hauled. And finally, I'm sure most of you already know what a company driver is, but for those of you that don't, a company driver is simply an employee who hauls freight with tractors and trailers provided by their employer. Now, I totally understand that it might be a little bit hard to tell the differences between these three jobs just through a description alone, so the easiest way for me to explain what being a lease operator is to someone who doesn't know is to just explain it like this. A lease operator is the worst aspects of an owner-operator and a company driver. It's the worst of both worlds, not the best. As a lease operator, you have the expenses, the risk, and the stress of an owner-operator, but the quote-unquote freedom of a company driver. From a poll conducted in 2012, the data showed that almost 80% of lease operators made less than $65,000 in gross income. Again, that's gross income. It's not even taking into account their expenses such as fuel, maintenance, repair, food, etc. These lease operators would be lucky to be netting $100 in profit every week. Meanwhile, the Guild 22 company drivers are averaging $70,000 per year without taking into account any safety bonus, vacation pay, 401k matching, etc. Now you may be wondering, if being a lease operator is so bad, why do some truck drivers do it? This is actually a great question, and the answer actually brings us to the first step of this elaborate scam, which is to sell dreams to desperate people. The drivers that these predatory carriers like to target usually have three things in common: low credit, low income, and limited experience. Let's just start with the low credit. When predatory carriers are pitching these lease purchase programs to their drivers, they almost always say that they won't do any sort of credit checks. Now, this should be a huge red flag for you, and it's one of the things that you should actually look out for when trying to find a legitimate lease purchase program. Now, just think about it for a second. Why would this carrier that's leasing you an expensive piece of equipment not care about your credit score? Your credit score would tell the carrier how good you are at paying back what you owe. If they don't care about it, it's probably because they're not planning on making money through your lease payments. They probably just want to suck you into this contract, make as much as they can off you from the loads that you deliver for them and from the lease payments, and when you finally default, which you will, they can get their truck back. So literally no risk for them, only reward. These predatory carriers also target drivers who are not making a lot of money, or drivers that are starting to make less and less money. These drivers will be desperate and they're going to start looking for other opportunities, and guess what? The carrier will be there with a contract for their lease purchase program. They're gonna sell you a bunch of dreams and tell you that you can start making $250,000 per year like the top owner operators do, because our big successful company will provide the loads for you. So basically you have no risk, or at least that's what they say. As someone that's not making much money and is desperate to provide for their family, this program would be a no-brainer for a desperate driver. Like, why wouldn't you want to make $250,000 with no risk? Again, we already know that 80% of lease operators struggle to make even $65,000 per year in gross income. So obviously they're not making anywhere near $250,000. Carriers will also use lease purchase programs as a marketing tool to hire drivers with no experience. This is because when you're a new driver, you don't really have, or you haven't really been able to experience the trucking industry. You don't really know if this is something you want to do long term. You don't know if you want to drive local, regional, or over the road, and you definitely don't know the responsibility that it takes to own your own truck. All you care about as a young, new truck driver is making a lot of money. And here comes a predatory carrier telling you that they'll give you not only your own truck, but they're also going to help you make 6 figures straight out of a CDL school. Now, as you can see, the drivers that fall for this trap are the ones that need the money the most. They need this opportunity more than the well-paid experienced driver does, which is why I think it's one of the biggest scams in trucking. But how does this scam actually work? Like most scams do, the lease purchase program starts off with good intentions. The legitimate carriers that offer these programs do so because they can help their drivers become owner-operators with minimal risk. These carriers will already have strong connections with shippers and brokers, so it makes sense that they would be able to help you make six figures while you work towards paying off a truck that you will eventually own. The carrier also profits with these programs because they're not only going to make money dispatching loads to you, but they're also getting paid for the equipment that they're leasing you. And for them, it's usually older equipment, so they're going to get rid of it anyways, might as well make some money on it. Now, this is how lease purchase programs are supposed to work. However, what some predatory carriers will do is, after you sign the lease purchase agreement and you start picking up loads for them, they'll slowly start decreasing the number of loads that you deliver every week, which will, of course, impact how much money you actually make every week. And it's at this point that the carrier is just trying to squeeze you out of the contract and get you to default on your lease payments. As soon as you miss a payment, they're going to repo your truck. And it's not like you can just leave and pick up loads from another company. If you want to leave, you can't take the truck with you. The carrier will make sure to include that in the contract. The sad part is, most of these lease operators never realize that they're being scammed, so they're going to think that it's somehow their fault that they're not making money. So a lot of them will try to hang on by taking out more predatory loans, such as payday loans, which puts them further in debt. At the end of the day, the scammy carrier will make money not just from the lease payments and all the loads delivered, but they also get to keep their asset or their truck and use it as a marketing tool to attract new victims. Again, I really need to clarify that not all lease purchase programs are scams. Many of these programs do what they promise, but in order to help you avoid getting scammed, here are 4 red flags to look out for. Red flag number 1, if the carrier doesn't do credit checks or requires any sort of minimum down payment. If the carrier doesn't properly vet you or require any sort of down payment, this may be a sign that they're just trying to entice you into a contract that you'll end up regretting. Red flag number 2, if the carrier won't let you test drive the truck that you might end up owning one day. The reason they do this is not because of some BS company policy, it's because they know something is wrong with the truck and it's on the verge of breaking down or requiring massive repair. If you test drive, there's a good chance that you'll be able to catch this and request it to be fixed before you sign the contract, which they don't want. Red flag number 3, if the carrier is rushing you to sign the contract. A legally binding contract is a huge deal. This is your only weapon and shield against a carrier. A good carrier will allow you to take a day or two to look over the contract and sign it. You might be able to negotiate certain aspects of the contract as well. However, a carrier that's trying to scam you won't give you enough time to actually look through it with a professional. They'll just say some BS like, if you can't see how great of an opportunity this is, then you probably shouldn't do it. Basically, they're going to try and shame you into signing. Finally, the last red flag, or red flag number 4, is if the carrier won't show you the success rate of the program. Obviously, if the whole goal of a lease purchase program is to own the truck at the end of the term, then you should be able to know how many truck drivers before you were able to successfully do so. If the carrier won't tell you, or they say that they don't know or don't keep track of this metric, they're just lying to you and you need to turn around and run away. All I really want to say is don't be afraid of lease purchase programs. There are some that are good, but there are also some that are absolute scams. So just do your research, avoid the red flags, read through the contract, get everything in writing, and also ask for a proof of the success rate. Also, if you can, try and get a guarantee for the minimum number of miles that you will drive per week. Again, make sure this is in writing and it's in the contract. Oh, and also, before I end this video, I have a quick plug. If you're a company driver or owner-operator looking for a new opportunity with a high-quality, high-paying company, feel free to submit an application at www.guild22.com/careers. And after you're done with the application, you can also download one of our free templates that will help you make more money at www.gil22.com/templates. So yeah, with that being said, thanks so much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.